Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Yelena and here we talk about books. While I'm working currently on my March reads, I want to share a few books that I've read in February and tell my thoughts about them. The first one on the list was The Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is my third book by this author. Previously, I read The Funny Story and also Great Big Beautiful Life. It is a lot of fun to read her books. It was exactly what you would imagine from contemporary romance. So they were these funny, lovable characters with their flaws, with a little bit of trauma, some issues they had to deal with, but at the same time, they would end up in hilarious, awkward situations. And I like characters from her books, especially for their traumas. Most of the time, they are so relatable and you can recognize yourself, or at least people that you know, in those characters. What I realized lately why I like contemporary romance for is the easiness. I mean, when you begin the book, you kind of already know how it's gonna end, or at least you have your predictions that are most of the times gonna come true. And in this case, the book is not about getting to the end and, finding the answers or seeing how it all turns out. It's about the journey. It's about following where the characters go, seeing what they do, how they interact, or the way he's staring at her when she doesn't look his way. I mean, that is literally what we are reading contemporary romance for. So all in all, Beach Read is a story about two authors. She is a romance author who is currently stuck in some sort of writing slump, and he is a fiction writer who does not believe in happy endings. And as you can understand, there's gonna be some rivalry based on exactly what they are doing for their life. And names for the characters, oh my gosh, I loved it. So she's January and he's Augustus, and I do believe it was intentional, but it is so fun. So even in names, they were absolute opposites. That is an amazing book. There was one situation I did not particularly agree on regarding what characters did. So they start spending more time together. They talk, they hang out, that is amazing, everything is well. And then at some point, she finds out that he did not tell her some stuff. And though it might sound out of context as, yeah, this is awful, I mean, he was misleading or he was lying to her. No. That was his personal stuff. They were not on that level of a relationship at that moment. But we soon recovered from that. Everything went well. I loved everything till the end of the book. I liked that book a lot and I gave it 4 stars. I'm definitely gonna continue reading her books. The next on the list was In Calabria by Peter Beagle. I still am not sure how I feel about this story. As what I saw it was a fairy tale of teaching what karma is. You do good, you get good, you do bad, you get bad. The story is set in our world, but with some little magical elements. It follows Claudio, a 47-year-old man who lives on a farm up on the hill. The way his life was described, it had such a warm feeling to it. He did not need a lot. So he lived on a farm, he had some animals that he was taking care of. Obviously, he was growing some crops, and he had a very simple, joyful life. Or at least it seemed so at the very beginning. We can see how a person doesn't need a lot, and that was the first thing that just got me hooked. Later on, he found a unicorn on his farm. Out of the blue. No one knew how it got there, what it's doing there, or anything at all. Plus, don't forget, it is set in our world. Unicorns? Well, I don't know about that. Anyways, the story was quite simple, short, fast-paced, so you do not get bored and you can easily finish it in one sitting. Even though I enjoyed the story a lot, I'm only gonna give it 3.5 stars because I do not think that life is fully fair and the lesson that was taught in the book is not exactly what I see in life. It also showed that sometimes people need a little bit more than just a calm life on a farm. To find out what exactly it is, you probably will have to read the book. After finishing Calabria, I felt I needed a little bit more of fantasy, and I went to Heir of Fire by Queen herself, Sarah J. Maas. I loved it! Oh my gosh! It was immaculate and hilarious at times, and sometimes painful and hurtful. Just what we usually expect from Sarah J. Maas's books. but I loved every single part of it. It took me a while, I'm not gonna lie. I did start reading Throne of Glass about a year ago. I then had a little bit of a break and finally picked it up and finished my fourth book. As you know, I don't like spoilers, and being on social media trying to avoid spoilers about books, yeah, it can be difficult, but trying to avoid spoilers about those books, you know, the series that everyone talks about, how would I put it? It's pretty much mission impossible. So yeah, I do know some parts, and I knew of the characters that are gonna appear later on in the story, because especially when I was reading Throne of Glass, I did not meet all of the characters that are gonna be later on in the story, and now we got to meet them. Selena so far is definitely my number one character out of all female characters created by Sarah. I did read ACOTAR, the whole series. I did read Crescent City. So comparing to those girls, Selena is my number one. What can I say? Yes. Of course, I did give 5 stars to Heir of Fire. It was incredible. And I love the way she expands the world. And you can, in this book, you can feel the preparations. I don't know what to expect from the next book, but so far, I'm loving it. Speaking of popular series, last month I finished one of those. It was the Caraval series, and I read Finale by Stephanie Garber. When I say I read, I meant I listened to an audiobook that was read by Rebecca Soler, and that's how I felt when I finished the book. I was content. I was so satisfied with the ending, with the story. First of all, I am absolutely in love with that world. The story gave me such a powerful carnival vibes, and it did remind me a little about the night circus, you know, where you have that festival where the magic happens and people are deceiving each other. While I was reading Finale, I was not sure who I was rooting for because of all of those deceits. You don't know particularly who to trust, who not to trust, who's your friend, who's your enemy, at what times the roles reverse. And that is probably one of those things that I loved a lot about the book. You cannot predict what's gonna happen. Not just Finale, but the whole series. And I felt such a thrill, and I could not concentrate on doing anything else. Honestly, to me, it was probably the first book where I could not do anything at the same time as I was listening to it. So yeah, I gave it full 5 stars. I loved it. The characters, especially female characters, were not always the most reasonable ones. But then I remember they're 17 and 19. They don't have a lot of life experience that comes with age and, you know, life itself. So of course, they sometimes would not know what is gonna be the best solution. But if you're looking for a fun, fast-paced, magical book where you get mysteries and can you try to solve them before the characters do, I am definitely gonna recommend Caraval series to you, because that was amazing. And if you like audiobooks, Rebecca Soler, in my opinion, did a fantastic job on narrating that book. Okay, there was one more series that I continued reading in February. It is a well-beloved, I can say classic at that point. It has really nice adaptations, and I believe they're gonna be doing another adaptation pretty soon. It was Prince Caspian from Chronicles of Narnia. I haven't read that book as a child, and I regret it. So, Chronicles of Narnia, it's a well-beloved children's book, and I would agree, it is amazing for kids. That's why I regret not reading it earlier. Because when I read the first part, it just seemed to be so naive. I enjoyed the second book way more. So we follow the adventures of 4 siblings, Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. We are back to Narnia. We have adventure, we have mystery, we have a little bit of magic, a little bit of fantasy, we have cute talking animals, we have the bad guy, we have the battles. So we have a little bit for a lot of readers, and you can easily fall in love with that book. And the story continues not where we left it, but it takes a surprising twist. But when I got to the ending, I realized why I had this sad feeling reading the story. I could not wrap my mind around what's making me so upset if the story is pretty much adventurous. Then I realized, to me, it was about how fast time flies. And that's pretty much the whole point. It was repeated so many times about growing up and becoming an adult, and you are not that careless, that curious child. Now you have those skeptical questions in your head. And it made me feel extremely sad. Anyhow, I guess you do understand I liked the second part, and I do think I'm gonna continue reading. I would give that story 4.5, particularly because it was children's book, it was well written for children's. I think it's amazing. But on top of it, it made me feel, it made me self-reflect and think about my life, gave me some food for thought, and I think that's amazing. When book does that to you, I think it fulfills its purpose. Alright guys, those were the books I read in February. I enjoyed every single one of them. If you read these books, please share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear what you have to say. If you haven't, I hope you find this video helpful on deciding whether to read or not. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video, and bye!